The gleaming spires of New Terra's capital city sparkled in the alien sunlight, a testament to humanity's resilience. It had been 50 years since the Galactic Federation had exiled the human race, casting them out from the interstellar community they had once been so eager to join. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the orbital station, her weathered face reflecting the bitter memory of that day. She had been just a cadet then, watching helplessly as the Federation ships escorted the human fleet to the edges of known space. "Admiral," a voice called from behind her, "the Council is ready for you." Sarah nodded, straightening her uniform before following her aide to the conference room. The faces that greeted her were grim, each bearing the weight of their species' fall from grace. "Let's begin," Sarah said, taking her seat at the head of the table. Status report on Project Phoenix. Dr. Ilara Voss, head of research and development, cleared her throat. "We've made significant progress, Admiral. The quantum drive is stable, and simulations show we can achieve FTL speeds beyond anything the Federation currently possesses." A murmur of excitement rippled through the room. It was the first piece of good news they'd had in years. "And weapons systems?" Sarah asked, turning to her military advisor. Colonel Jackson Ryder leaned forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. "The plasma cannons are operational, and our shield technology is light years ahead of where we were during the exile. We can hold our own in a fight now." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Good. We'll need every advantage we can get." The exile had been brutal. Stripped of their colonies and confined to a handful of systems, humanity had nearly torn itself apart in those first chaotic years. But from the ashes of their despair, a new determination had risen. They would not merely survive. They would thrive. "What about diplomatic efforts?" Sarah asked, addressing the final member of her inner circle. Ambassador Zara Okoye shook her head, her holographic form flickering slightly. "Still no response to our communiques. The Federation maintains its stance that we are a dangerous, unpredictable species." Sarah's jaw clenched. The incident that had led to their exile, a misunderstanding that had escalated into a firefight with a Federation peacekeeping force, still haunted them all. Lives had been lost on both sides, and the Federation had used it as an excuse to rid themselves of the upstart humans who had been making waves since their arrival on the galactic stage. "Then we proceed as planned," Sarah declared. "Project Phoenix will be our ticket back to the stars. Not as supplicants begging for forgiveness, but as equals demanding respect." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling on each of them. They all knew the risks. If they were caught violating the terms of their exile, the consequences would be severe. But the alternative, to wither away in their small corner of the galaxy, was unthinkable. "Dismissed," Sarah said, rising from her chair. As the others filed out, she returned to the viewport, gazing at the stars that had once welcomed them. Humanity had made mistakes, yes, but they had also learned, adapted, and grown stronger. The Federation thought they had contained the human threat, but they had no idea what was coming. Sarah's reflection stared back at her, determination etched in every line. "We're coming back," she whispered to the distant stars. "And this time, we'll do it right." The hum of advanced machinery filled the cavernous underground facility as Dr. Ilara Voss made her way through the labyrinth of laboratories and testing chambers. Project Phoenix had become humanity's beacon of hope, a symbol of their unwavering determination to reclaim their place among the stars. As she entered the main hangar, Ilara's breath caught in her throat. There, suspended in a cradle of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields, hung humanity's future, the HSS Prometheus, their most advanced starship to date. "Beautiful, isn't she?" a gruff voice said from behind her. Ilara turned to see Colonel Jackson Ryder approaching, his cybernetic eye scanning the ship with a mixture of pride and calculation. "She's more than beautiful," Ilara replied. "She's our salvation." The Prometheus represented decades of reverse engineering alien technology, combined with humanity's unique innovations. Its quantum drive could bend space-time in ways the Federation had never imagined. while its adaptive hull could withstand forces that would tear conventional ships apart. "How soon can we begin flight tests?" Jackson asked, his organic eye never leaving the ship. Ilara consulted her datapad. 2 weeks, if we push it. But Jackson, we need to be certain. One mistake and the Federation comes down on us like a supernova, he finished. I know. But every day we wait is another day our people suffer in exile. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert on both their communicators. Admiral Chen's voice came through, tense and urgent. "War room. Now." Minutes later, they joined Sarah and Ambassador Okoye in the secure briefing room. The Admiral's face was grim as she activated a holographic display. "We intercepted a Federation transmission," Sarah began without preamble. "They're aware of increased activity in our sector. They're sending a patrol to investigate." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Discovery now could doom everything they had worked for. Zara spoke up, her holographic form flickering with agitation. "We need more time. The diplomatic channels are starting to show promise. If we can just—" "We're out of time," Jackson cut in. "We need to launch now." All eyes turned to Ilara. She took a deep breath, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. "The Prometheus isn't fully tested, but she'll fly. We can complete the trials in deep space, away from prying eyes." Sarah nodded, her decision made. "Prepare for immediate launch. We'll take a skeleton crew, volunteers only." This mission is as dangerous as it is crucial. As the others rushed to make preparations, Sarah held Ilara back. "Doctor, I need to know. Are we ready for this? Not just the ship, but us. Humanity." Ilara met the Admiral's gaze, seeing the weight of their species' future in her eyes. "We've changed, Sarah. We're not the same brash, impulsive race we were 50 years ago. This exile has taught us patience, humility, and the value of cooperation. We're ready to rejoin the galactic community, not to conquer, but to contribute." Sarah smiled, a rare sight these days. "Then let's go show the galaxy what humanity has become." Within hours, as the Federation patrol approached the outer reaches of their system, the Hess's Prometheus slipped silently from its underground berth. With a flash of quantum energy, it vanished into the depths of space, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire species. The resurgence of humanity had begun. The galaxy would never be the same. The HS Prometheus glided through the inky void of deep space, its quantum drive humming with barely contained power. For 3 months, the skeleton crew had pushed the ship to its limits, fine-tuning systems and gathering valuable data far from the prying eyes of the Federation. On the bridge, Admiral Sarah Chen studied the holographic star map, plotting their next move. They had ventured further than any human ship since the exile, each light year a small victory against their confinement. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Kai Takeda from the sensor station. "I'm picking up some unusual readings from a nearby system." Sarah frowned. They were well outside Federation space, in an uncharted region that should have been empty. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." Kay's fingers danced over his console. It's like nothing I've ever seen. Massive energy fluctuations, gravitational anomalies. It doesn't match any known phenomena in our database." Curiosity piqued. Sarah ordered a course change. As they approached the system, the Prometheus's advanced sensors painted a picture that left the crew in stunned silence. At the heart of the system lay a massive structure, clearly artificial, yet defying all known laws of physics. It pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly energy that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "My God," breathed Dr. Ilara Voss, who had joined them on the bridge. "It's beautiful." Colonel Jackson Ryder was less impressed. "Beautiful or not, it's not supposed to be here. This could be a weapon, or worse." Sarah nodded, her military instincts on high alert. "Agreed. Kai, any signs of life or activity?" "Negative, Admiral. The structure appears dormant, but there's no telling how long it's been here or what it's capable of." Making a quick decision, Sarah ordered a small away team to investigate. As they approached in a shuttle, the true scale of the structure became apparent. It dwarfed the Prometheus, its intricate geometries defying easy comprehension. The away team, led by Ilara and Jackson, entered through what appeared to be an airlock. Inside, they found corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked, leading them deeper into the heart of the enigma. This technology, Ilara marveled, her scanner struggling to make sense of their surroundings. It's beyond anything the Federation possesses, beyond anything we've ever imagined. Jackson remained tense, his weapon at the ready. Stay focused. We don't know what. His words were cut off as they entered a vast chamber. At its center stood a pillar of swirling energy, and within it, suspended as if in amber, was a being unlike any they had ever encountered. Ilara approached cautiously, her scanner beeping frantically. "It's alive," she whispered. "Barely, but alive. And, oh no." "What is it?" Jackson demanded. "It's in pain," Ilara replied, her voice thick with emotion. "Terrible pain. And it's trying to communicate." As if on cue, the energy pillar pulsed, and a wave of information flooded their minds. Images, emotions, and concepts too alien to fully grasp washed over them. But one message came through with terrifying clarity. Danger, coming. Destroy all. Back on the Prometheus, Sarah watched in horror as her away team collapsed, overwhelmed by the psychic assault. As she ordered their immediate extraction, alarms blared across the ship. "Multiple contacts," Kai shouted. "Massive energy signatures. They're coming out of subspace." Sarah's blood ran cold as she saw the readings. Whatever was emerging was beyond their capabilities to fight. With a heavy heart, she gave the order to retreat. As the Prometheus engaged its quantum drive, fleeing the system, Sarah knew they had stumbled upon something that would change everything. They had discovered a threat not just to humanity, but to the entire galaxy. And they were the only ones who knew. The HS Prometheus limped back towards human space, its systems strained from the hasty retreat. On the bridge, Admiral Sarah Chen's face was etched with concern as she debriefed her recovering away team. "Let me get this straight," she said, massaging her temples. "This alien being warned you of an impending threat, one capable of destroying entire civilizations." Dr. Ilara Voss nodded, still pale from the psychic encounter. "Yes, Admiral. The images we saw. Worlds burning. Entire species wiped out. It's coming, and it's unlike anything we've ever faced." Colonel Jackson Ryder, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the information, spoke up. "We need to warn the Federation. Whatever our differences, this threat affects us all." Sarah's jaw clenched. "Agreed. But how? We're still exiles. They'll shoot us on sight if we enter Federation space." A tense silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the soft beeping of consoles. Then, Ambassador Zara Okoy's hologram flickered to life. "I may have a solution," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "I've been cultivating a relationship with a sympathetic Federation diplomat. If we can get a message to her, she might be able to help." Sarah nodded. "Do it. In the meantime, we need to prepare. Ilara, I want every scrap of data we gathered analyzed. Jackson, review our combat capabilities. If this threat arrives before we can convince the Federation, we need to be ready." As the crew sprang into action, Sarah retreated to her quarters. The weight of their discovery pressed down on her. They had sought to prove humanity's worth, to earn their place back in the galactic community. Instead, they had found a nightmare lurking in the depths of space. Days passed in a flurry of activity. Ilara and her team worked around the clock, deciphering the alien data. Jackson drilled the crew relentlessly, pushing the Prometheus's systems to their limits in combat simulations. Finally, word came from Zora. Her Federation contact had agreed to a clandestine meeting in neutral space. It was a risk, but one they had to take. As the Prometheus approached the rendezvous point, Tension on the bridge was palpable. Sarah stood at the viewport, watching as a sleek Federation diplomatic vessel decloaked before them. "Open a channel," she ordered, straightening her uniform. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a stern-looking Arcturian, her iridescent scales shimmering in the starlight. "This is Ambassador Thela," the alien said, her voice cool. "I hope, for your sake, that this is worth the risk you've taken." Sarah took a deep breath. "Ambassador, thank you for meeting us. What we've discovered affects not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. We need your help, too." She was cut off by a proximity alarm. Kai's voice rang out, panic evident. Multiple ships dropping out of warp. Federation signatures. Sarah's heart sank as she saw the Federation warships surrounding them. On the view screen, Ambassador Thela's expression hardened. "I'm sorry," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "But did you really think we'd let exiles roam free? You'll be escorted back to your designated systems immediately." "Wait," Sarah pleaded. "You don't understand. There's a threat coming, one that could destroy us all. We have proof." But her words fell on deaf ears. The Federation ships moved into attack formation, weapons charged. In that moment, Sarah made a decision that would change the course of history. "Jackson," she said quietly, "initiate combat protocol Omega." The colonel's organic eye widened in surprise, but he nodded grimly. "Aye, Admiral. May the stars have mercy on us all." As the Federation ships prepared to fire, the Prometheus's quantum drive roared to life. In a blinding flash of energy, it disappeared, leaving the stunned Federation fleet behind. They had failed to deliver their warning. Now, they would have to face the coming storm alone. The HSS Prometheus emerged from quantum space at the edge of the system where they had discovered the alien structure. Admiral Sarah Chen's decision to return had been met with mixed reactions from her crew, but they all understood the stakes. If the threat they had glimpsed was real, they couldn't afford to wait for the Federation to listen. "Status report," Sarah commanded, her voice steadied despite the tension that filled the bridge. Lieutenant Kai Takeda's fingers flew over his console. "All systems operational, Admiral. But there's something wrong. The alien structure, it's gone." A collective gasp went through the bridge crew. Dr. Elara Voss rushed to the sensor station, her face pale. "That's impossible. Something that size can't just disappear." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared across the ship. Kai's voice rose in panic. Multiple contacts. Massive energy signatures emerging from subspace. The view screen lit up with a sight that would haunt them for years to come. Vast ships, unlike anything they had ever seen, poured into the system. Their hulls seemed to shift and writhe, defying the laws of physics. "By the stars," Colonel Jackson Ryder breathed, his cybernetic eye whirring as it struggled to process the information. "There must be hundreds of them." Sarah's mind raced. They were hopelessly outgunned, but running wasn't an option. This threat needed to be contained, or at least delayed, to give the rest of the galaxy a fighting chance. "Battle stations," she ordered, her voice cutting through the shock that had gripped the crew. "Jackson, ready all weapons. Elara, I need options. Kai, send out a distress call on all frequencies, including Federation channels. They need to know what's coming." As the crew sprang into action, the alien fleet seemed to notice the lone human ship. Several of the massive vessels broke formation, heading straight for the Prometheus. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah shouted as energy beams lanced out from the alien ships. The Prometheus shuddered under the assault, its advanced shields barely holding. Jackson's hands danced over the weapons controls, returning fire with everything they had. Plasma beams and quantum torpedoes streaked across space, impacting the alien vessels. But to their horror, the damage seemed to heal almost instantly. "This isn't working," Jackson growled. "We're barely scratching them." Ilara's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral, I have an idea. It's risky, but it might buy us some time." At this point, "I'll take anything," Sarah replied, gripping her chair as another blast rocked the ship. "The quantum drive," Ilara explained quickly. "If we overload it and detonate it in the middle of their fleet, the resulting spatial distortion could disrupt their systems, maybe even trap some of them in a localized time dilation field." Sarah's eyes widened at the implications. It would mean sacrificing the Prometheus, stranding them in enemy territory. But if it worked, "Do it," she ordered. "Jackson, prepare to evacuate the crew to the escape pods. We'll set the ship on a collision course." As the crew rushed to implement the desperate plan, Sarah opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the Admiral. What we do here today may well determine the fate of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. It has been my highest honor to serve with each and every one of you. Now let's show these invaders what humanity is truly capable of." The Prometheus surged forward, its quantum drive screaming as it was pushed beyond its limits. The alien ships, seemingly sensing the danger, intensified their attack. But it was too late. In a blinding flash of light, the Prometheus detonated, taking a significant portion of the alien fleet with it. The resulting spatial distortion spread like a shockwave, engulfing more of the invading forces. As the escape pods jettisoned away from the chaos, Sarah watched the battle unfold through a small viewport. They had bought some time, but at a terrible cost. Now, stranded and alone, they faced an even greater challenge, surviving long enough to warn the rest of the galaxy of the war to come. The escape pods drifted through the debris field that was once the proud HSS Prometheus. Admiral Sarah Chen's heart ached as she watched the remnants of her ship float by, a testament to the sacrifice they had made. But there was no time for mourning. They were stranded in hostile territory, with an enemy of unimaginable power hunting them. "Admiral," Jackson's voice crackled over the comm, "long-range scanners are picking up movement. The alien fleet is regrouping." Sarah's mind raced. Their options were limited, and time was running out. "Ilara, what's the status of the quantum distortion field?" "It's holding for now," the scientist replied, her voice strained. "But it won't last forever. We've maybe bought ourselves a few hours, a day at most." As Sarah contemplated their next move, a proximity alert blared through the pod. Kai's panicked voice came through. "Multiple ships dropping out of warp. Federation signatures." Sarah's heart leaped to her throat. Had their distress call actually been answered? Or had the Federation come to apprehend them, blind to the greater threat? The answer came swiftly as a familiar voice transmitted on all frequencies. "This is Ambassador Thela of the Galactic Federation. Human vessels, respond immediately." Taking a deep breath, Sarah opened a channel. "This is Admiral Chen. Ambassador, I know we have our differences, but right now we have a much bigger problem." There was a pause, then Thela's voice returned, tinged with a mix of frustration and curiosity. "Explain yourself, Admiral, and it had better be good." Over the next few minutes, Sarah laid out everything they had discovered: the alien structure, the warning, and the terrifying fleet now temporarily contained by the Prometheus's sacrifice. As she spoke, she could almost feel the disbelief radiating from the Federation ships. "This is difficult to believe," Thela said finally. "But our long-range scans are detecting anomalies consistent with your story. If what you're saying is true." "It is," Sarah insisted. "And right now, your fleet is the only thing standing between that alien armada and the rest of the galaxy. We need to work together." There was a long, tense silence. Sarah held her breath, acutely aware that their fate, and possibly the fate of all known civilizations, hung in the balance. Finally, Thela spoke. "Very well, Admiral. Consider your exile temporarily suspended. We'll bring your people aboard and pool our resources. But make no mistake, this is not forgiveness. This is survival." As the Federation ships moved to retrieve the escape pods, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next few hours, Humans and Federation species worked side by side, combining their knowledge and technologies. Ilara and Federation scientists pored over the data from the alien encounter, while Jackson and Federation tactical officers strategized defense plans. Sarah found herself in a war room with Ambassador Thela and other high-ranking Federation officials. The atmosphere was tense, years of mistrust not easily forgotten. But as they discussed the threat before them, Sarah saw something change in their eyes. The realization that they faced extinction had a way of putting old grudges into perspective. "We need to warn the rest of the Federation," one official said. "Mobilize everything we have." Thela nodded grimly. "Agreed. But our combined forces here won't be enough to hold off that fleet for long. We need a plan." All eyes turned to Sarah. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of expectation. "The alien structure we found. I believe it holds the key. If we can reactivate it, maybe we can find a way to stop this invasion at its source." "That's a big if, Admiral," Thela said, her scales shimmering with skepticism. "It is," Sarah agreed. "But right now, it's the only hope we've got." As the room erupted into discussion, Sarah gazed out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an unimaginable threat loomed. But for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity and the Federation, once bitter rivals, now stood united against a common enemy. The true test was yet to come, but together, they at least had a fighting chance. The combined human and Federation fleet hung in space, a fragile barrier between the encroaching alien armada and the heart of civilized space. On the bridge of the Federation flagship, Admiral Sarah Chen stood beside Ambassador Thela, watching as the last of their reinforcements arrived through warp gates. "Is this everything?" Sarah asked, her voice tight with concern. Thela nodded grimly. "Every ship we could spare without leaving our core worlds defenseless. Let's hope it's enough." The plan they had formulated was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy. While the bulk of their forces engaged the alien fleet, a small, elite team would attempt to reactivate the alien structure they had discovered. It was a long shot, but it was their only chance of turning the tide. "It's time," Sarah said, turning to face the assembled leaders. "We all know what's at stake here. Not just our individual species, but the very future of sentient life in our galaxy." As she spoke, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. From exiles to saviors, humanity had come full circle. The irony wasn't lost on her. The strike team, led by Dr. Ilara Voss and a Federation Xenotech specialist, boarded a specially modified ship. Its quantum drive had been calibrated to match the frequency of the alien technology, their best guess at breaching whatever defenses the structure might have. As the ship prepared to depart, Sarah approached Ilara. "Good luck out there, Doctor. The fate of us all rests in your hands." Ilara managed a weak smile. "No pressure, right?" Her expression turned serious. "We'll find a way, Sarah. We have to." With a final nod, Sarah returned to the bridge. The tension was palpable as they watched the strike team's ship disappear into quantum space. Moments later, the alien fleet emerged from the distortion field. The battle was joined. Federation and human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their recent cooperation paying dividends. Plasma beams and quantum torpedoes lanced across space, meeting the otherworldly weapons of the invaders. But despite their unified front, the Allies found themselves slowly pushed back. The alien technology was simply too advanced, their numbers too great. "We can't hold them much longer," Jackson shouted over the din of battle, his hands flying over the tactical console. Sarah gritted her teeth, watching as ship after ship winked out of existence. "We have to. Just a little longer." As if in answer to her plea, a massive energy surge erupted at the heart of the alien fleet. The structure had reappeared, pulsing with power. "They did it," Thela breathed, her scales shimmering with hope. On the structure, Ilara and her team worked feverishly, interfacing their technology with the alien systems. The being they had encountered before appeared again, this time its message clear, an activation sequence. With trembling hands, Ilara input the final command. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. A wave of energy burst forth from the structure, washing over the alien ships. One by one, they began to power down, their strange forms becoming inert. Back on the flagship, cheers erupted as they watched the invincible armada fall silent. What happened? Thela asked, her voice filled with wonder. Sarah smiled, understanding dawning. It was never a weapon. It was a fail-safe, a way to shut them down if they ever went rogue. As the Allied fleet moved to secure the deactivated alien ships, Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved the galaxy. In the days that followed, humanity's status within the galactic community underwent a dramatic shift. Their actions had not just redeemed them, they had elevated them to heroes. As Sarah stood before the Federation Council, accepting their formal apology and reinstatement, she thought about the long journey that had brought them here. The exile, the struggles, the sacrifices, all of it had led to this moment. Today marks a new chapter, she said, addressing not just the Council, but all those watching across the galaxy. Not just for humanity, but for all of us. We've seen what we can accomplish when we stand united. Let that unity be our guiding star as we move forward into a brighter future. As applause filled the chamber, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or superiority, but through cooperation, sacrifice, and an unwavering spirit. The redemption was complete. A new age had begun.